Alrighty, everybody. So today we are going to look at relations versus domains. So before we get into that, it's a very important math concept. Functions will show up a lot in all your math classes, so this is going to be the intro to that. Before we do that, we need to go through the vocab. I'm actually going to do this a little bit out of order. The first thing I'm going to do is a relation. A relation, just think relation, you see the word relate in there, so it relates two things together. A relation is a set of ordered pairs. Now remember, an ordered pair goes x comma y. So that is a relation, is just multiple points together. All right, and then the domain is the list of all possible input values. Now remember, the input values are going to be your x values. And then with the domain comes the range. The range is the list of all possible output values. And in an ordered pair, the output values are your y values. And this is the big definition, is a function. All right, a function is a specific type of relation. It's a special relation where each x value or each input value has exactly, so only one y value or one output value. So basically what this comes down to is in a function, the x values cannot repeat. Okay? Your x values cannot go to more than one output. So let's look at how we can represent these. So we have a relation here because we have this set of ordered pairs. There's 1, 2, 3 ordered pairs. So one of the ways that we can represent that relation, or we can see that relation, is through a table. So through an XY table. And typically with this XY table, what we can do is put the x values in order from lowest to highest. So the lowest x value you see there is -2. And then its corresponding y value is 4. Next, so that crosses out that one, got that one. Next is 0. The output there for 0 is -3. And then next we've got 1, 2. So while it's not necessary to put it in order like we did there, that's very common to see. We could also graph those points because they are ordered pairs, so they are points. We can graph them on a coordinate plane. So if I wanted to graph -2, 4, so I go -2 on the x, up 4. That's going to be that point right there. And then we've got 0, -3. So go 0 on the x, down 3. All right, that's a little obnoxious. Let's try that again. So there's that point. And then we've also got 1, 2. So I'm going to go 1 to the right, up 2. And we have those 3 points represent this relation. Okay? And then the other way to represent these is called a mapping. So in a mapping, what's going on is that you've got 2 circles. This first circle is called your input, and it is comprised of all your x values. And then you have another circle, which is called your output, and your output values are going to go in there. So we got 4, -3, and 2. All right, and then all a mapping does is it sends each input to its corresponding output. So -2 gets mapped to 4, 0 gets mapped to -3, and 1 gets mapped to 2. So it's not always going to be the case in the mapping that the arrows go straight across, but you'll be able to see what the input is and what its corresponding output is. All right, so let's do some examples. We want to find the domain, range, and determine if each relation is a function. So the letter A asks us to do the example above in your notes or on the previous slide on the video. All right, so we're looking at 1, 1, 2, -2, 4, and 0, -3. So the domain, remember the domain is going to be your x values. So the domain here is made up of the set of -2, 0, and 1. So -2, 0, 1. That's the domain. The range is going to be 4, -3, and 2. So if I put that just in order, -3, 2, and 4. It doesn't really matter what order you put it in, but typically you put it from the smallest to the biggest. And then you want to see, is this a function? Is this a function? So basically all you're looking at there is you're looking at it and you're saying, do any of my x's repeat? Do any of my x's go to more than one y? And no, that's not the case. So this is a function because no x's repeat. Okay? In our second example, we're looking at this mapping. The domain is the set of all the x values. So we got -8, -5, and 7. The range is all the y values, which is -6, 1, 2, and 3. And is this a function? Well, we need to look to see if any of the x's repeat. And if you notice, -8 goes to -6 and 1. So is this a function? No, because -8 repeats. So because one of your domain values, one of your x values repeats, it's not a function. It is a relation, but it's not a function. All right, and then last but not least, we've got a table. So the domain value is all the x values, so 0, 2, 5, 8, and 9. The range value is going to be 1, 3, 0, 7, and 4. Is this a function? So let's look at our x values. None of our x values repeat. So yes, because no x values repeat. So here is your 0 doesn't repeat, your 2 doesn't repeat, your 5 doesn't repeat, your 8 doesn't repeat, and your 9 doesn't repeat. All right, so go ahead, try these out real quick, and then we'll go over it. Okay, so there's your worked out examples for those 3 practice problems. So you'll notice in number 3 in particular, you'll notice that both -2 and 2 go to 1. So one of your range values repeats, but that's totally fine. This is still a function because you're just looking to see if any of your x values repeat. So make sure you jot down any questions you got, and then let's move on to the final concept for this lesson. So the last thing is called the vertical line test. And the vertical line test says that if a vertical line goes through a graph more than once, the graph is not a function. Because basically it's showing that your domain repeats, your x values repeat. So here we're going to learn some new vocab. Shouldn't be super new. All right, but look at A. We want to find the domain and range and determine if the graph represents a function. So remember, your domain represents your x values. So in this weird looking like U, sideways U, all right, what are any of the x values that you can plug in? Well, you can plug in anything from 0 to infinity. Because you're looking at your x-axis, so the smallest thing that you can plug in is 0, and you can keep going on and on and on all the way to infinity. You can plug in whatever you want. All right, now for the range, what can you get out? So we look at the y-axis. So if I look at the y-axis, I can get out anything from -infinity all the way to infinity. So that's the domain and the range of this weird shaped graph, because you can plug in anything from 0 to infinity, and you can get out anything from -infinity all the way down and down. Because you see these arrows, this is going on forever. All right, and is this a function? Well, all we need to do is draw a vertical line through this point, and then we need to just move it. All we're going to do is we're going to move that line throughout my graph, it's going to hit it more than once. So because it hits it more than once, this is not a function. So no fails the vertical line test. Okay? So go ahead with that idea of what the vertical line test is. Try out B and C. Okay, let's talk about those two examples. You'll notice your domain on B. So if we're looking at B, you can plug in anything from 0 to infinity. And I threw the symbol for infinity there just in case if you didn't know that. Okay, you can write infinity, that's fine. But if you want to use that symbol, that's fine too. The range, the smallest y value that you get out is 2, which I underlined in that green. And then it can go all the way up to infinity. So the range is from 2 to infinity. And is this one a function? Yes, because it passes the vertical line test. You can draw a vertical line wherever you want on that graph, and it's only going to hit it once. All right, and then we got C, which is just a collection of points on a graph. All right, the domain here is all the possible x values. So you just look at all your ordered pairs, and you list all the x values. Your range is all the y values. And then is this a function? No, because if you draw a vertical line, it's going to hit 2 points, both at x equals -1 and at x equals 1. All right, so that is the intro into relations and functions. Functions are going to be super big, and all from here on out, that's pretty much all math is looking at functions and their relationships. So that's it for this part of your functions lessons.